Welcome back to our Simple Healthy Life podcast, where our goal is to have real, insightful conversations on topics that we find interesting. And we're honored today to have our friend, Jason Caldas, visiting with us today. Jason is an entrepreneur. He is a CrossFitter. He owns Millennium Fitness in Lakeville and CrossFit Dartmouth. And I believe we'll get into a little bit of his past, but I think he owned up to 5 CrossFit gyms at one point. Is that right?
Yep, 5 CrossFit gyms.
Awesome.
Nice.
All at once.
All at once. So we thought we'd talk today is a little bit about you, and then we really wanted to talk today a little bit about like your process of being an entrepreneur and what that looked like. So thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
So I think it's maybe just a good place to start off. Like, share a little about maybe your history. Like, how did you first acquire your CrossFit gyms, or maybe what was the first business venture?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I've been a trainer my whole life. I was a trainer since I was 18. Even before that, like I used to take my friends to the gym. I was like the first kid that kind of out of my friends that went to the gym when I was probably 13 or 14. I broke my leg playing hockey freshman year, so like I couldn't play that first season. So I was going to the gym with all the football players, really, where I was training with them. They kind of taught me, and then I was kind of teaching my friends as we went, and ended up going to school for exercise science. Just ended up being a trainer. I always had like aspirations to go on in school and be like a physician's assistant or a physical therapy or a chiropractor. And I got pretty far, even like doing all the prereqs to go to these different schools. But just as I kept going into training, and as a trainer and like learning, how I like to work with people more on a day-to-day basis, not really be at a desk or an office. I just always knew I wanted to open a gym, So pretty much at some point I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like most entrepreneurs do.
Okay.
And I was like, instead of spending a couple $100,000 on, schooling, let's save as much as I can and try to open up my first business. So after being a trainer, I was in like Natick, Newton, Wellesley area for a while. I ended up getting certified in CrossFit. Ended up going to CrossFit New England, which turns out to be like the #1 CrossFit gym in the world.
Really?
Yeah, we were on my team in 2010. Went to the World CrossFit Games. So we went to regionals. I competed at the regionals on the team. We won every event, world records at events. We were coached by Ben Bergeron, the best coach in the world. And then I ended up being the alternate at the games, but I was the alternate, and our team won the gold medal at the games. So we won like the actual World Affiliate Cup gold medal. Me
Really?
and my ex-wife were on the team. And that kind of catapulted us to more wanting to open up like our own gym. And CrossFit just was a very, very easy way to open up a gym. If you see like the CrossFit model, it's really like weights and kettlebells and boxes you can make out of wood. So it was very low key to kind of open, and it just looked like the right avenue to go after. Opening like a fitness center, like a big box type gym, is expensive, right? And I got there eventually, but it took a long time to get there. But the CrossFit gym was, you could open it with 10, 20, 30 grand and try to just get going from there. So we came back to Bridgewater. I had a bunch of clients in Bridgewater. I had a boot camp at the Raynham Athletic Club. I pretty much transferred all my clients in my boot camp over to Bridgewater. We started day one with, pretty much full clientele almost. Built, we invested just whatever I had in the bank. It was probably only like 10 grand, honestly, that I had to put into the business. I had a really good lease and like a kind of a loan some equipment and lease some equipment from the previous owner as I grew situation, which really helped. But we just kept growing that Bridgewater gym. And with our like clout from, the CrossFit Games and all that stuff, we kind of had a name for ourselves. So we grew pretty quickly. And there was no CrossFit gyms at the time.
Yeah.
So that was my first gym, and that's how we kind of got into CrossFit, and we did have a really good reputation for it. And then, I ended up opening up multiple ones with business partners that were usually members of the gym over time.
So I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
This isn't about CrossFit, but I want to learn about it right now. So for everybody, could you just give us a little bit of a background on like what CrossFit is? I know people have their kind of preconceived notions about it. And then 2, I do want to hear a little bit more about that World Championship thing.
Sure.
That's pretty amazing to me.
Yeah. So CrossFit is not what you think it is.
There we go.
That's what I tell everybody. Whatever you think it is, whatever you see on TV, whatever ad you see, whatever super athlete online you see, that is not happening at CrossFit gyms. You know, that is the Olympics of CrossFit. You probably see world-class athletes training for the CrossFit Games, or you see the CrossFit Games on ESPN. Like, that's 1 in a million type athletes, you know. Like, those are not the people in our gym every day. CrossFit is, you know, the simplest form is functional fitness. It's a combination of weightlifting, gymnastics, and endurance. All different types of workouts. Every day is different. You never know what you're getting. But the real thing of CrossFit is it's 100% scalable. So we say it's for any body. It's just not for everybody. You know, like not everybody likes it. That's fine, right? But any body can do it because we can scale every single movement down to your level.
Okay.
Like even today, even this last month, actually, I've been doing all my workouts at probably half the weight I could normally do them at. I took a couple months off. I'm trying to get my fitness back. I want to feel good. I don't want to feel beat up. Like that's the way it's supposed to feel. It's not supposed to feel like you're dying every single day. So whatever you think it is, it's not that. And then a lot of CrossFit gyms do it differently. Some of them think you're supposed to RX the workout and do like this heavy weight all the time. You're supposed to be dead on the floor all the time. But what we learned, especially at CrossFit New England, again, we learned from the best coach in the world, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to feel good when you leave. Once in a while, you might lie on the floor because you're dead. But most of the time, you're supposed to feel good and leave and be happy and come back the next day. You know, the biggest benefit of CrossFit is you have a coach with you every single day. So if you come at a 9 a.m. class, say every Monday through Friday, you usually have the same coach most days. And that coach is slowly progressing you every week. You might do 10 pounds more next week. You might do another banded pull-up, you know, with 3 bands this week. And next week, maybe you're only doing 2 bands. And over the next few months, maybe you can have no bands on your pull-ups, you know. So the coaches are slowly progressing you and telling you when to cut back. That's the goal of the coach. Like, hey, Mike, you just started. I know you can power clean 135 pounds, but today, why don't you do 95? Try to be like the first one done or in the middle of the pack. I'd rather you do that, come back tomorrow, and not be, you know, injured next week. That's what it's supposed to be like.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that a lot of people, myself included, didn't really know that until I stumbled into your gyms. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we do, you know, a good job. I think a lot of CrossFits do a good job, but I think we've really molded down from like being competitive gym like we were very competitive, and we maybe thought we were supposed to be always competitive every single day in the gym to like, all right, what's the 99% of our athletes are just everyday people going to work tomorrow. So like they want to feel good when they leave here, feel accomplished, feel like they did something pretty hard that not everybody else is doing, but also be able to come back tomorrow.
I love that you use you call your clients athletes.
Yes.
Do you do that? You do that intentionally?
Yeah, I think CrossFit probably started that. We call everybody athlete, like, you know, because they kind of are. It's one of the definitions of CrossFit is the sport of fitness, because it's technically it's a sport, right? You can compete in CrossFit. If you come into the gym, you could take it as a sport, or you could take it as just kind of general fitness. But each day we're competing a little bit with ourselves. You know, we always say, you know, competing against anybody else, but we're competing with ourselves, and we're trying to improve our times, you know, over a course of months. Trying to improve our weightlifting. We're trying to improve our speed on certain workouts. But we do call everybody athletes because they're training like athletes. It's a strength and conditioning program like you would see almost like in a college, you know, facility.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful because we've had discussions on identity on this podcast, and one of the examples I commonly use is someone who's trying to learn guitar, for example, right? They think, you know, I know a few chords, and if someone asks, are you a musician? A lot of the time, you know, maybe 9 times out of 10, the beginner amateur guitarist might say, nah, you know, I know a couple chords, but the truth is that they're a musician. You know, whether or not you want to, you know, accept that as some term of definition, if you play some music, you're a musician, just such as, you know, the CrossFit. If you're practicing a sport, you're an athlete, right? And it doesn't matter the caliber. Obviously, you know, like you said, most of them are not the 1%ers or the less than that, but they are practicing sport. So I think it's important. It's kind of a nice atmosphere.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like if you're a musician just learning, you know, it's a belief system too. Like if you start to believe you're a musician, hopefully you're going to start to perform like a musician. So maybe CrossFit had that idea already. Hey, these are athletes. Let's train them like athletes. If they start believing they're athletes, maybe they'll perform better.
I love it. So, I do want to ask you about this world championship thing, but I think for our audience, many of us can't relate to being a world champion at anything, right? We want to, we want to put in the time for anything that we love, but what is it like to kind of find that thing? It sounds like you found this thing that you enjoyed, then you found an amazing coach, and then you were able to get good enough at it through practice to get to that level. Like, what was that process like for you? How long did it take? Was it like, you just were a natural athlete or a hockey player, I think I heard you say,
yeah.
And then you transitioned into it. Like, what can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would say number one, when I started CrossFit, nobody was doing it, so that was good, right?
Smaller
like
pool.
literally, but I think I've always stayed in the top 10% of the whole Northeast, say. So like back then I was in the top 60, now I'm in the top 600 or 6,000, whatever it is, right? But I'm still in the top 10%, but there's so many more people doing it now. So to be fair, it was newer, right? But I walked into the gym, I was always pretty fit, always did hockey or played, some kind of sport for exercise. I did, weightlifting, bodybuilding, but I also do more circuit training and stuff already. But CrossFit's really hard, like you would know as an athlete, right? Even if you walk into the gym, it's hard to check your ego at the door. So I would say the first month or two, I couldn't overhead squat like a 10-pound barbell overhead, right? And I'm seeing guys doing 135 pounds like overhead squats. I'm like, that guy's the freaking, like, he's Hercules. Like, how does he do that, right? And I couldn't front squat very well. Like, I couldn't get my elbows up, and like at one point everything hurt, like my forearm, just like tendonitis. But like over time, my point is, like, I like the challenge. Like, I like the training. Like, I knew I was going to get better in my head. I know I could get to that point. If that guy can do it in my head, I'm like, I can hopefully do it, Some of it's mobility, and I took a lot of mobility, like 30, 40 minutes every day before class to try to get to that mobility. I enjoy the training, I think that's part of being an athlete. Like we talked about it a little earlier, but like the training to me is way more fun than the competition day, especially in CrossFit. Like, I kind of hate CrossFit competitions. My friends know, like, I'll do team ones and I'll do some fun ones, but if it's an individual spotlight on me, that's not my jam. But I'll train every single day by myself or with the class or whatever it is. I enjoy the training and I enjoy the process. And it kind of translates into business and entrepreneurialism. I like building the gym. I like opening the thing. I like doing the hard work. There is no end goal, really. There's no competition day. Once the gym gets to a certain point, I don't know, it's just gonna keep going up. It keep going, getting better. So I think that the athlete and the business thing kind of go together. But I just really enjoy the training and that process. So, I was always there trying as hard as I could every single day to get better. Like, I knew I wanted to get my handstand push-ups, then I wanted to get my jump rope double unders, then I wanted to get a muscle up on the rings. Like, just always something for me as an athlete, and just in general. That's what CrossFit's the beauty of it. Like, you might come in one day and you can only jump on an 8-inch box, and then next week you can do a 16-inch box, and then the next week you can do a 24-inch box, and so every single athlete in our gym, man, woman, 50 years old, 70 years old, 200 pounds, 100 pounds, they always have some level, like, they can keep going up and progressing. So that's the beauty of CrossFit, I guess.
What's funny about that answer you just gave? What I heard you say is that not only were you resilient, right? Not only did you decide that this is something you liked, but you decided you learned to love the practice, right? You learned to love the process. But the part that sticks with me is you came in early and did your mobility training. And when I think about being an entrepreneur and what it takes to become a successful entrepreneur, you need to come in early and do your mobility training. You need to figure it out when, not between 9 and 5. You learn to love the process, but also learn to work on the things that you're not good at. And I think for a lot of people out there that want to become entrepreneurs or, see their friends kind of reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and going down this path, get ready, buckle up. Like, it's not going to be a 9 to 5. It's not going to be a Monday through Friday gig. It's going to be, going in and doing the extras. So kudos to you for kind of taking that mindset and bringing it to, every aspect of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Like owning your own business is not 9 to 5, like, most of the time I wake up to, what is going wrong today? Like, what do I have to fix? Like, that's the first thing. I'm like, oh God, what do I have to fix today? So like, if I told you every day you're going to come in at 9, I'm just going to tell you everything you did wrong today. Are you going to want to go to work every day? Probably not.
Right.
So most of the time I have to figure out what am I doing wrong, or what can I do better at least, and that's how I take it. I don't really think of it like, what am I doing wrong? Just think, all right, this is going wrong. How can I fix it? What can I do better? And that takes a certain person to do that. Same in CrossFit. I'm not getting the score I want. It's not that I'm doing it wrong, or it's not that I can't do it. I'm not capable of it. Just, all right, what do I have to do to get better at it? And that's the growth mindset. It's like, not everybody's like that, programmed that way, but you can program yourself that way. But the growth mindset, same thing. It's like you talk about, it's falling in love with the process, falling in love with trying to get better, not really worrying about the end result yet. It'll get there. But it all goes together for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the inputs, right? Like you just focus on what you can do, and then hopefully the outcome is good and you're getting some good outputs out of that. But for the most part, being entrepreneur, you just do what you think is right. You show up and you do your thing, and hopefully things work out. I'm curious about your first business venture, because I think that's where most people are, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're I don't know if they're aspiring entrepreneurs, but hopefully if they're listening to this, they might be. But that first risk that you took, so you mentioned, I didn't really have that much money, or I used pretty much all the money that I had. Let's talk a little bit about that. What was that like? Was there fear involved? Were you very confident? How long had you been doing CrossFit at that time? Like, kind of riff on that a bit.
Yeah. Opening up at any business, the first one or the second one or the fifth one, it's similar, but the first one for sure is the scariest one. Yeah. There's just a lot of thoughts that go through your head. Is it going to work? How are we going to do it? How are we going to make it right? How are we going to make the rent? How are we going to make this money? Like, how are we going to grow it? You have so many questions in your head, right? I'd only been doing CrossFit for a year, really, at that point. I'd been a trainer for 10 or 15 years already, probably. Okay. Maybe 10 years. Yeah, 10. I was about 30 years old when I opened it, my first one. I'd been a trainer since 18, so. But I never did a business license. I never, went to the town to get a town license. I never did an LLC, like so many things. Like, and back then it's like, that's like crazy. How do you do that? So, luckily I have a lot of good mentors. My personal training clients are the best, right? So luckily personal training, you get a lot of successful clients. Usually I'm always picking their brain. Like, I'm always asking them about their business and like, what would they do? So having good people in your network set me up for success probably originally. One of my clients is a lawyer. I'll do your LLC for you. Then you do this, reading books all the time, whether it's Rich Dad Poor Dad, or even there's a couple other podcasts I followed, like Bedros, like Business Entrepreneurs, or back then. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, you can't answer any of those future questions. And you kind of just got to jump. You just got to jump in. You gotta have a plan. You gotta have some kind of business plan. You gotta have some kind of financial plan. You gotta have some kind of strategy. But you can't wait to solve all the answers before you start, because then you'll just always be waiting. So you hear this all the time. Like, if you just wait to start to answer every single question, you're never gonna start your business. You're gonna still be 10 years later trying to figure out all the questions.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to go with your gut, and you have to jump into it and just make it work, and then again, going back to the mindset, I'll just figure it out. I'll just figure it out somehow. I know I can do it,
Yeah. Go for it.
So you jumped. You had all things you needed clearly, and then you were successful. What drove you to say, let's do it again? Let's get to 5. Let's get to 10. Let's change from CrossFit to brick and mortar. Right? What kind of drives you there?
Yeah, along the way, CrossFit gyms were great, but they're also like, there's only so many people in your area that are going to do CrossFit. Sure. So in a town like Bridgewater, you might have 100 to 200, like athletes that want to do CrossFit. You have a bunch of people that go to the gym, but even out of those 10% that go to the gym, there's only 1% of them that might actually do CrossFit. So I always felt like I might need a little bit more, another one, maybe just some more income coming in. CrossFit was expanding like dramatically at the time as well. So there was a lot of growth. But I also needed like a partner to do it. CrossFit really only allows you to have one license per name, but I could partner with other people. They'd have to be on the license, and that's the process to open like a second location, a third. You'd always have somebody else on the license. So even if my first partner, we have to get a third person to go on the license technically if we did everything together. But luckily at the gym, usually it would be like one of my best coaches or one of my best members would want to open up a CrossFit gym. So one of my first members, Justin, he had lost 100 pounds with us. He was a football player, lineman, came in almost 300 pounds, got down to 200 pounds, loved CrossFit, was there every day, was like he was a nurse, he was in the field, he started working with Reebok CrossFit, even doing affiliate like competitions and stuff, going to the competitions. So it was just a really good fit, and he wanted to open a CrossFit gym in Dartmouth, like our hometown pretty much, where I'm from, New Bedford. So him and I was a good fit, and like I said, it was expanding. And then we opened that one in a very good way as well. We planned it ahead of time. Again, more things I just read online from business entrepreneurs. We opened up a boot camp at Buttonwood Park. So it was a free to us to use the park. We got it cleared, and we ran a boot camp for May, June, July, and August at the park. I think even September, because we didn't have the lease yet. And it was like $100 a month. And we had, 30, 40 people doing it probably each month. And then by the end, we had $7 or $8 that we made, and we just put that into the business. And then we opened the doors with 50, 60 members right away, day one.
Wow.
So that was
That's amazing.
again, some planning, some reading,
Yeah.
some researching, but also, taking a risk with up a business partner, and never did that yet. Like, let's see what happens, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, even in just that, like the short segments that you've discussed the process, there's already been really valuable lessons that people can take, right? Like, of course, action. So a lot of through your ventures already, what you share is that you just took action. You didn't wait around, inaction kind of breeding of fear. So you did it. Even with this Dartmouth CrossFit, you did the action of hosting boot camps in Buttonwood Park, which is a very, like anyone could essentially do that if they're well trained and have the knowledge to I guess, train individuals, right? You mentioned mentorship, which I think is really helpful. Maybe mentorship making the business venture more real. So it's easy to like watch a podcast or a YouTube video and see like all these people who don't feel real, but to have someone to kind of guide you through the process, I think is really nice. And then the third is kind of, that idea of like leap in the net will appear kind of deal. You have to almost trust that things are going to work out, and maybe, trust that if they don't work out to your plan, then you can navigate through that. So I think that's super interesting. I am actually very curious about what you did to build the user base or the clientele around the Buttonwood Park boot camps. How did that go? Like, how did you, like, walk me through almost like the steps? Like, what were some of the first steps of that?
Yeah, luckily I'm from New Bedford, right? It's
Yeah.
a big city, but my sister, my dad, my mom, we all went to New Bedford High, over the years. So we just have a big network in the area. I feel like we know a lot of people. All my high school friends have thousands of friends in New Bedford. Like, there's so many people in Bedford. New Bedford High had 4,000 students, I think, when I went to New Bedford High. So mainly we built it off Facebook and social media. We started posting about it. Again, my friends and family were very, very avid. Like my sister especially really, really helped. Even my dad had a bunch of his friends come into the boot camp. My dad was in the boot camp. My sister ended up being a coach with the boot camp.
Wow.
Justin and his friends from Dartmouth as well. So like, it was really just word of mouth, and it was on social media. Facebook back then was the only platform, so it was all social media. We put it out there. We just started getting, people pretty much signing up online. Day one, bring a check, and let's see what happens. And then they could just join whenever throughout the month. People would join in the middle or whenever it was, and it really started to grow. We did a 6 a.m. and a 6 p.m. 3 days a week.
Oh, wow.
And it got to the point where like we brought like I had a truck, like I'd bring boxes, like plyo boxes. I'd bring empty barbells. We'd bring mostly kettlebells and dumbbells. We'd bring all the stuff, or we'd have them buy a set of dumbbells. We'd be like, hey, buy a set of 10-pound dumbbells and maybe a 10-pound kettlebell or something, or like a yoga mat. Buy a yoga mat so we can do sit-ups. We did it right, if you know the park, like right near the duck pond, like that big strip of grass. We just did it there. We had friends that worked for the park, so we cleared it with the park and all that. But that was definitely the best idea I probably ever had to open a gym, right? Because that's the scariest thing I haven't done probably is just open a gym from dead scratch, which I still don't know what I would do there. So like Bridgewater, I pretty much started a boot camp and a business at Raynham, while I was a trainer. Dartmouth, we started the boot camp at the park, and then it really turned out well. And then each one after that, I pretty much acquired other CrossFit gyms that were going out of business, or just the business part I wanted to get out. And just there was 3 other ones: CrossFit South Shore in Hanover, CrossFit East Providence, and then CrossFit Raynham. And all 3 of them really were just coaches of mine. So like one of my coaches, Josh, wanted to open one in the Somerset, Swansea area, and then we found East Providence was for sale, so we bought that one together. My coach is Nick, worked at the South Shore Gym in Hanover. He wanted to buy it from his owner, so I ended up helping him with that one and bought that one. And then CrossFit Raynham too was an old member. We had kind of almost split off from Raynham when I was at the rack. She stayed there and did her own thing, and then we just came back together to try to help each other out at the end.
It's funny. It's funny. I hear you, and one of the things that I got to know you a little bit, and you're a very humble guy. But what I'm hearing from you is that the people that you essentially have hired and trained eventually became successful enough and confident enough and good enough to be their own entrepreneur.
Yes.
And I have to imagine they learned that from you, or at least
they won't tell you that, but yeah.
Well, I'll say it for everybody. Well done.
Thanks.
That's it takes a lot to be an entrepreneur. It takes a lot to train people. It takes a lot to mentor people, and in some ways give back. Right? They helped you make the whole thing go, and then you were able to help them, go off on their own thing. So really well done.
Thanks. Yeah, I think when I was a trainer, like I was at Fitness Together in Wellesley, one of my first jobs. The owner there, took me under his wing and just mentored me on everything about the business and everything. And then he ended up leaving. The franchise rep took over and made me the manager, and he sent me into sales training and whatever it was just everybody helped me. I felt like along the way. And then whenever I wanted to open a gym, I had no clue. And like I said, I was so scared.
Yeah.
Once I did it, I always did want to help the next guy open their gym. So I did want to, my coach is going to want to open a gym. I'd want to do it with them. It wasn't always for the money. Sure, I want to make a little piece of it, but it was more just to help them get another gym. And then the only reason I did 5 gyms was kind of to try to, have satellite locations in other towns and almost have our little brand of CrossFit within CrossFit. Because if a lot of them were opening, we wanted to kind of secure some areas. So maybe a big gym from New York didn't come and just blow us out of the water. We'd already have our kind of our area or territory kind of.
That makes sense.
But yeah, mostly it was just trying to obviously help my coaches open their own gym and do what they wanted to do. We'd set them up and same thing, they didn't have to go through how do I do an LLC or how do I open up a bank account? How do I go to the town? I already did it. So it's this is what we're going to do. It's really easy.
Yeah.
It's not as hard as you think.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's amazing. I think people get hung up on a lot of those things. How do I open a LLC? How do I open a business bank account? How do I get an EIN? All these things, which, to be fair, are really not super complicated. Once you go through the process, you realize, oh, that's not too bad. But I think people get hung up on it. But even you kind of just did it, right? And you even beforehand, I don't know if did you get anything with personal training beforehand, or you just kind of?
I didn't have an LLC or anything back then. No, I just kind of had insurance and I rented space at that point.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's great, because then it's you're just diving in and you're trusting yourself to find the answers along the way, even if it didn't feel good. It sounds like there was a lot of apprehension throughout all the process.
A lot of times,
Yeah.
With each partner, I was do I really want another one, or is this person the right person? Which is hard. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't. I'm that's pretty much just the way it goes. But I tried to do it,
Cool.
And in the long run, what ended up happening is a divorce happened. A lot of the CrossFits got split up, and then pretty much just whatever I had left, I sold, and I pretty much have bought the newest gym, Millennium Gym, which is my dream gym now.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about that. So that's where I got to meet you. It's Millennium Fitness. It's in Lakeville. For anybody that's interested, it's amazing. He just keeps adding to it. Every so often I come in and something's different and new and constantly new stuff and everything. I speak very highly of it, of course. But talk to us a little bit how you made that transition. Well, maybe how you started over and came back to it.
Yeah. So Millennium is the big gym. It's 25,000 square feet. It's had 3 renters plus the gym plus some extra space. So it was just like when I was looking at this one, this was the scariest one. The rent was triple anything I've ever done before. The lease was longer than anything. Everything was triple or quadruple, like, what I expected or like what I've gone through.
Yeah.
So again, like it was 7-year lease. It was, way more rent. It was way more people, way more space, way more moving parts, like running like group exercise classes and everything. I do CrossFit, but I don't do group exercise classes. And, I've worked in gyms forever, but I never really worked the desk, honestly. I didn't really do too much sales. And on the desk, I've done other sales. There was it was way more stress of this one. But again, like it's my dream. Like I've always wanted a gym my whole life. Since I went to a professor's gym in Bedford, I'm like, how does this guy afford to build a gym? It must be like $5 million to open a gym. How does anybody afford it?
Right.
But Millennium was originally East Coast Fitness, and it was originally Gold's Gym. It's been there for 30 years. Glenn and Lisa that owned the building still owned it, and they did an amazing job forever. They had sold it to a previous owner, and unfortunately, some circumstances happened. It technically went out of business for 3 months. So when I heard about like the gym was kind of going downhill for a little bit, I started to reach out to Glenn, the landlord, to see like what he wanted to do, if he was trying to sell it yet, or the owner at the time, if they wanted to sell it, but they didn't want to sell at the time. And I just kept calling like every month, like, hey, how are they doing over there? I heard it's not going so good, but what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. She's still paying the rent, but like Glenn was, nervous that the owner at the time wasn't going to, make it much farther. So a few months go by, and I literally call every month, checking in. I'd owned Planet Eats in Raynham at the time, so I was only a mile away. My Planet Eats store at the time wasn't doing too good with the healthy prepared meals, and our rent was going up, and our lease was over. I was almost debating like going to East Coast at the time and just renting some space and like putting my Planet Eats there, and then maybe I can wiggle my way into the ownership somehow. But it went out of business, and then it kind of went up for sale though. So at first it was just, I was the only guy talking to Glenn for a long time. And he was like talking to me like, hey, you can take it as soon as, this lady doesn't want it anymore, it's yours. And then when it went out of business, then it was like, all right, well, it's on the market now. It's like 4 other gyms looking at it, like everybody, Workout World, Planet Fitness, Raynham Athletic Club, Bridgewater Fitness, General Fitness in Fall River. They're all looking at it now, and like everybody's bidding on it. And it's like different now. It's like, shit, I'm not the only one in this thing. Still scary. Still have no idea how I'm gonna do it. I take my dad there and I show him around. He's like, "You're gonna do you're gonna run like all this stuff. Like you're gonna do the upstairs and the downstairs and all the other gyms."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I think I can do it." And then a good friend of mine, Beth, she's an aerobic instructor in the area, fitness trainer. She's friends with Glenn. She put in like a really good word for me. She knew I ran CrossFit gyms. She knew I could probably add a CrossFit area like we have now and manage it. She just knew I did 5 gyms, so maybe I could do 1 big gym, I guess mentally. So she had put a good word in for me. I brought in my business partners from Brack's Restaurant Group, Frank and Chris, and my dad. So now I have some financial backing too. So when I went to Glenn, at first it was just me. I don't own too much. I have some CrossFit gyms, but they're not worth much. I don't own the buildings. So at first he was a little skeptical, I think, of just me. Once I brought in the other partners, it was still a toss-up, Glenn says. There was 2 gyms. One offered more, one offered way less. I offered pretty much what he wanted. But I wrote him a letter of like how I'm gonna like run the gym. So like Glenn and Lisa ran the gym. Their daughter grew up in the gym. They were there every day. They ran it like a family and like a community. So, and my letter is pretty similar. Like, I'm going to be there every day. Me and my dad are going to be running the gym. My kids are going to grow up at this gym. Like, I'm going to be there every day. It's my gym. Like, if you hire another gym, they're going to send some lady to run the desk. Any of the other gyms, the owners aren't going to be there. It's not going to be a family community anymore. It's not going to be the same. And then after, Glad agreed and everything, we were toasting to some Casamigos, and he's like, it was the letter that you sent that really sealed the deal.
Wow.
So I thought that was nice, and I just got lucky, I guess, too, to open that gym. But that's back to the whole thing. That was the scariest one for sure, and it still is. It's still a lot of work every day.
Wow.
Well, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
The harder you work, the luckier you get. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Preparation meets opportunity, right?
Sure. That's incredible. Yeah, it seems like a lot of your experiences up until that point had you vaguely familiar with the process. So you're looking at all these things, all these moving parts. You're like, I kind of know a little bit about that, but I don't really know, the depth that I would like to know. But I think that's amazing. Just kind of jumping in. And what did you say in the letter?
It was pretty much like just how I was going to run the gym and like, being there, the personal touch that I would put on it. And again, like being a family environment. Running the CrossFit gyms are run that way. Yeah. It's like a community, a family vibe, and that East Coast was always like that. Everybody knows their name there. Yeah. It's like a Cheers of a gym. If you go to a Planet Fitness or Workout World, everybody has their headphones. Nobody talks to each other. Yeah. At our gym, people actually sit and talk to each other, maybe too much, all day. In the morning, the older guys, they've been there for 30, 40 years, some of them. Wow. They're in their 60s, 70s, and they come in and there's no headphones. We're listening to rock music and they're talking, and we get smoothies. They're sitting in the smoothie bar just talking to the desk, like old times. Wow. So, I mentioned some of those things, and pretty much just the effort and the personal touch I was going to put on it.
Amazing. And so how does that work? Does the building owner own all the equipment and stuff, or do you now own all the equipment?
So I bought the equipment off of him. Right. That was part of the deal. Yeah. And luckily, and I've read this recently, the third gym owner does the best because most of the equipment's been paid off by now. So Glenn and Lisa were buying brand new equipment all the time, but even he bought it off Gold's Gym. So the Gold's Gym did the build out, right? Yeah. Like each treadmill costs $5,000 to $8,000 per treadmill. Each little bicep curl machine costs $5,000.
Right.
Wow.
Like if you really do the math, it's very expensive, over $1 million or $2 million to do just a small gym.
Yeah.
So Glenn had bought it off the first guy, so he had already gotten some kind of a deal with the equipment, and I'm sure Glenn had paid that off by the time he sold it. And then the guy even that bought it off him the second time had probably paid Glenn most of what he wanted. So when he went to sell it to me, he didn't need too much. So I really got a good deal overall. Wow. But I bought the equipment off it. It's somewhat of a part of the lease too, just in case I bail out. He gets the equipment back in the first 5 years, but whatever. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. How long has it been?
We're 2 years in. And then like Mike touched upon, so we have 25,000 square feet, 2 floors. First floor is mainly like we have the old school bodybuilding gym, treadmills, ellipticals, free weights up to 150-pound dumbbells, 5 or 6 different leg presses. We have like an old school gym, but we keep buying new equipment. So like every 6 months I'll buy something new, keep it fresh, like a brand new hack squat the other day. We just keep adding new equipment. Then we have like a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot CrossFit gym downstairs, all turf. That's run by us. We run that part. We also have Group X classes like yoga and barbell burn in that room. And then upstairs now we have all renters. So upstairs we have a Muay Thai kickboxing gym, Red Seal Martial Arts. So he has his own business. He rents out his own space. He's been there for 10 years. Wow. We have Hero Fitness Academy. He does kettlebell, hip hop classes, boot camps, weight loss challenges. He has his own gym. And we have Align Movement, which is one of the newer studios. It's a hot yoga, hot Pilates studio. They have 1 unit, and now they're taking on some more space. And then we have our labs coming in. With me and Mike are doing a little project together. So we're going to have cold tub, hot tub, infrared sauna with red light therapy, rainfall showers, chill meditation area. Cool. So that's all getting built out this year. So that should be done by the end of the year, if not sooner. And that'll be upstairs at Millennium as well.
Awesome.
So we have a lot going on up there.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So it's like 5 gyms within 1 gym.
Yeah. Was that the first public announcement of our
that
labs?
was, yeah.
Ooh,
That was it.
well,
Was
all
it?
right.
Yeah.
Well,
It's in the. It's out there now.
It's out there
Yeah.
now.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, it's
Alright.
officially underway.
It's officially underway, yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Congratulations
Thank
to
you.
the both of you. So, MJ, do your riff on it. What's our labs?
Oh, Jesus. All right, yeah. So our labs has been a project that I've been working on my wife and I have been working on for, well, we did probably what you coached everybody not to do, right? We tried to figure out all the answers first. And eventually we decided to jump. When we met Jason and we kind of realized that there was such a large community of people in this area that were going to be interested in recovery. And our labs is a riff on recover, restore, renew, relax, all the reasons that you would use an infrared sauna, that you would use a cold tub, that you would use a hot tub, that you would use meditation. The audience knows, like, I'm very passionate about breath work. So all of those things kind of came together, and we decided we were going to open a spot. We've been seeing spots open around the country. None of it seemed to be exactly what we were interested in doing. There's some franchise opportunities available, but we figured that we could do it. We could do it better. We could do it ourselves. So it came down to location. And like I said, when we found Millennium and realized that we had at least the opportunity to start with a pool of people that were all like-minded in some regard, we decided to jump. And then comes all the work, figuring out how to build it, what to build, what it looks like, the way it should look, the way it should flow. One of the really cool things, and since I get the opportunity to talk about it, I'm really proud of is, as the audience knows, we own a skincare salon, and Corey really talks about, when you go to a skincare salon and you come in and someone says, you don't just go for a facial, you go for a specific facial, whether it's the Harvest facial or some regard. They want to be told exactly what maybe would work for them. So we've developed some prescriptions for people, maybe the CrossFitters are into really working through the cold water therapy to bring their muscles, the inflammation down. So that's Revive. So we've put together a Revive prescription. There's going to be some yoga people that might be interested in just the relaxation, on a Friday afternoon, they want to relax. So we put together a relax prescription, and then we like, Corey and I like the rounds. We like to go kind of hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, so that we have rounds or restore, which is a little longer prescription. But ultimately what our goal is to bring people together all around recovery. And our tagline is recover with intention. So what we're looking for everybody that joins or comes to do is really spend that time focused on themselves, focused on whether it is restoring or relaxing or renewing or reviving, focused on that. And we're excited. We're super excited. We're excited to be doing it with you. We're excited to be doing it in that spot. We're excited to jump. As an entrepreneur, we were lucky enough to jump the first time and have it work out with the skincare salon. We jumped the second time with Simple Healthy Life, which is working awesome. So thank you for everybody that's listening.
Yeah.
And now we're going to jump a third time in our labs. And probably the same way you felt when you had to jump again with Millennium, like this feels like the biggest one yet. It feels like I think you said triple or quadruple, like that. All of this new stuff to figure out. Right? When we bought the spa, originally it was already set up. We just bought it from someone that had already done it all, and we had Corey's expertise as an esthetician. And then, when we started Simple Healthy Life, we had kind of already built a backing and built a group through breath work and meditation, and now we're just we don't really have anything that we started. We're just jumping. So I think that's the story on our labs, and goal is to be open by the first of the year, if not sooner. We're going to do a grand opening right around that time. Lately, everything seems to be coming into play at the right time, right? They say, like, things happen for a reason, right? Like, your gym was up at the time when you were ready to do it. And while I wish that I had been the guy that was like, no, I could have done this last year and I was ready to go last year, the truth is I wasn't. And I think that whether the universe or the whatever's driving this whole thing knew it But we're ready now, and we're after it. Contractors doing their demos this week. Thank you for moving all that stuff. I appreciate it. And we're after it. So look for more to come. We'll be talking more about that. The website's not up yet, but it will be recoverwithintention.com. And the really cool stuff, not just that, but we're really hoping to expand into like all aspects of recovery, physical, mental. As you guys know and the audience knows, that's one of my favorite things to work on is physical and mental recovery. So that's that.
I love it.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations.
Perfect.
And
Thank you.
Exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
And scary, right?
And super scary. I'm saying to someone, this is the scariest part where all the money is out and none of the money is back.
You don't know what's going to happen for
Nobody
a few
has
months.
any idea what's going to happen in this limbo period where you just have to say to yourself every day, it's going to be successful. It's going to work. And we have a track record of working, track record of being successful, track record of surrounding ourselves with people that are successful. You know, these are all things that when we talk about being an entrepreneur, you know, this resilience that we built through training, through physical and mental training, through time, you know, this stuff that we take for granted sometimes, and then all of a sudden we have to use it.
Right.
You know, how do we use it? When the rubber meets the road or push comes to shove, you got to say to yourself, I know I can. You know, I know I can.
I think like we said earlier, like the sports and even just fitness, working out, right? Everybody goes to the gym, but not everybody gets results, right? You got to really dig in. You got to really put in the work day after day after day without seeing any change in the mirror, right? For like when you're little, especially 16 to 18, like you work out every single day, you look in the mirror, you don't look much different. But now 30 years later, do you look different than your friends? But you do, right? Because you've been training every single day. And then building up like the resiliency, like you said, maybe, or even just like the confidence from sports. Like I played as hard as I could. And my team ended up being better over time because we practiced harder. We ended up figuring it out. Or just as an individual athlete, I ended up being good because I put in the work and I did it, everything I knew I could do. So I know I could probably figure out that sport, and I know I can probably figure out this business. I know if things go wrong, I'll figure out a new solution. If I'm in wrestling and jiu-jitsu, which I have no clue about, and I try to move, it didn't work, I'm gonna try a different move, right? But it's always changing. It's always, you just gotta be adaptable, resilient, and I think the sport and the fitness, it really all does, it helps business person. Doesn't mean you have to be a sport or fitness person to open a business, because you could be a totally different, you know, super brain successful person as well. But for us, because we're not so smart, we need the other part of it. We need the resiliency and just the kind of jump in and I'm going to figure it out somehow.
Yeah.
The confidence part.
Really well said.
Right.
Really well said.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I know both of you guys, vague ideas on business, but jumping in and trying to figure out the next steps as you go. And I think that's one of the key traits of someone who is good at business, is that they're not willing, they're willing to take the risk, they're willing to learn along the way, instead of, neither of you have business degrees as far as I understand, right?
Right.
You didn't search all day and study and go to school on how to open a business. You just kind of did it, learned along the way, and now both very successful. So that's amazing. So in terms of then to the average everyday listener, maybe doesn't have a business, maybe doesn't even know where to start, what kind of take-home advice would you offer them?
Yeah, I would say that you got to pick a business that you're passionate about, right? So you got to pick something that you're passionate about. We want to make money, but we want to enjoy it. So you got to like find the balance. But you have to have something that you're really passionate about and that you're going to give 100% effort every single day. Because if you're not going to put in the effort, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to have the confidence to jump. You're not going to have the resiliency to go to work every single day because you don't have the passion. I think Mike and I do well in what we do because we legitimately love what we do. Like I love helping people, and more physical. He loves helping people, mental and physical, right? But I enjoy the gym is open and people come in and they're healthy and they're happy and they're really saying hi to each other. You know, like I enjoy the process and I just enjoy that. I enjoy helping people. That's what I went into my path, my career for. So if you want to open a business, you got to not just pick something like that's going to make you money. It's got to be something that you are passionate about. You know, if you want to drop ship Amazon stuff, sure. But are you passionate about it? You can probably do it for a couple of years, but you're not going to do it forever.
Right.
But if you really want to open up a business, a small business, a local business, you know, you got to pick something that you're passionate about, and then you got to be the most knowledgeable person about that business, you know, in the future. Like, we both study every single day to be better at fitness and wellness and mental coaching and whatever our passion is, but I'm always studying and learning about my passion too. So you got to also be the expert in your field once you know, over time, if you want to open that business.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I agree. The passion shines through in business, and so, you know, the most successful businesses are also the ones with leaders who are the most passionate. And I can say the same thing. Like, I love the work that I do. I'll work all day and all night just because I love it, you know. And and people ask me, how many hours do you work? I'm like, I don't know. I work a lot, but I love it, right? And so that's, you know, that's how you're going to facilitate learning. That's how you're going to facilitate those connections. That's how you're going to facilitate the growth, so to speak. I love it. Anything for you? Any last key advice?
Yeah, as I'm sitting here listening to you and sitting next to you, like I get the opportunity to do all the time. It's funny how like physical, mental, nutrition, like how like our paths keep coming and crossing. And I think one of the things that I have noticed as I've progressed and got older, and for all the people out there that are like, okay, leap, yeah, I hear that all the time. I read all the books. One of the things that I've noticed is when you do leap, people come into your life, you know, that are like-minded, that are when you're on your path and you're doing something you're passionate about, expect people to come into your life that are passionate about other areas that maybe that would benefit you. And I mean, there's no greater example than sitting here with the two of you guys, and just take that when you're feeling fearful, you know, find a mentor, find a friend, find somebody that you can talk to that maybe has lived through it or is going through it right now. You know, create a peer group. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to not have all the answers, right? Rely on yourself, rely on the fact that you are resilient and that you can do these things, and the people around you will support you. And so that's my message overall.
Yeah. And like you said, and if you don't have a good support system, hire a mentor, a coach that's done it, not some fake person on Instagram. But yeah, hiring a mentor or business coach is definitely would be the next step for all of us.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Mentorship is underrated. Yeah, I love it. Okay, great. Want to wrap up?
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you. I learned a lot. I would love it if you'd come back and just talk about that CrossFit Worlds thing. I think that's super fascinating to me. I mean, he's got an incredible jiu-jitsu background and a top athlete in the sport. You know, you're a top athlete in your sport.
Was.
Top 10% still, from what I understand. No, but I love that. That's, you know, I see a lot of value in being at the top of your sport, and something that I always just love to learn about. What it takes. Maybe we just do another podcast on what it takes to be just in the top 10%. What it takes to push yourself that hard, and the day when you wake up and you don't want to do it, and what that looks like, and you know, maybe we do something like that. But thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. And for anybody that's looking for this or looking for all of our podcasts, you can find us on most podcast platforms. Apple yet? Are we up on Apple?
Yeah, should be.
Awesome. So we'll put your handle down. Anybody, social media, Millennium MF Gym?
Millennium Fitness Lakeville, Instagram, or J Swan Fit.
Awesome.
Nice.
And we'll get that down there so it'll be on the bottom of the thing when we leave. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you.